Hey there, and welcome to this short video. I'm best-selling coach, author, small business specialist Alex Goad, and today we're going to discuss another one of the factors that you can use to 10x your life, to go from where you are today to having at least 10 times the results that you want or that you're having right now. And it doesn't matter what sphere of life you're looking at. You want to be more fit, you want to look fantastic, you want to have a career that matters, you want to get paid a lot of money, you want to go out with beautiful people and marry someone wonderful and have kids, not have kids. What we're talking about here is the ability to self-determine, the ability to choose everything that you have in your life instead of settling for what other people are willing to give you or for settling for what average means today. If you want better than average, you're going to have to use your abilities to go and get it. And I've distilled over the past 15 years or so exactly what it takes so that you can shortcut that development and go from where you are today to anywhere that you'd want to go in record time. As you've guessed it, the topic of today's talk is going to be clarity. And a lot of people have said things along these lines, that clarity equals success. You've also heard perhaps that you can have anything, but you can't have everything. And this is exceptionally true in the department of clarity. The more you focus on 1, 2, 3 things, the more you separate the really important things from all of the other stuff that's not important, and the more you disproportionately focus the limited resources that you have on those things, well, the quicker they materialize and the bigger the goals you can check off. So obviously this seems pretty, well, obvious, but the thing is, it's a lot easier said than done. And the truth is that the vast majority of people don't even have a loose outline for what they really want in life and what they don't want in life. And I'm going to show you 6 questions at the end of this talk that you can ask yourself so that you can start to set some goals and some parameters and kind of create a map in your mind of how you want your future to look like. How you want your beautiful future to look like. Not just any future. Not the one that's going to happen kind of by default by continuing to do what you're doing today, but the one that you're going to engineer and the one that's going to be so attractive that it's going to pull you towards it. Okay, so let's start. So the first important concept to understand is fractal clarity. And what does fractal clarity mean? It's actually ridiculously simple. And you're going to see it's going to feel pretty darn obvious. But my philosophy is until I'm doing something, I don't know it. So if you're not doing this, you don't know it. And here's how to get closer to doing it. Just examine your life right now and tell me. This is a Russian doll right here. So it's those dolls that break one into the other. So those Russian dolls are kind of like a fractal. What's a fractal? I'm not going to take you back to physics class, but a fractal is basically a structure that we find a lot of in nature. Like when you see a crystal clear crystal, it is a fractal, meaning that from the tiniest structure of molecules up to the actual crystal itself, it looks the same. So you zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, and all you see is the same thing. Well, visualize the same thing in your life. Let's imagine that that's your big picture. And then you've got the next couple of years in front of you. Well, it's the same thing, just a smaller version of it. As you keep going, and perhaps this is your month, this is your week, but the things that you're doing, the activities that you're doing, the thoughts that you have in your head, the stuff that you focus on is a smaller version of the big goal. And finally, if you can get to the point where every single one of your days, your weeks, your months align with what you want to have down the line, that's when you have fractal clarity. And this can be in any aspect at all. The important thing is that as long as you're going to be able to create this kind of structure where everything that you do represents the future that you want to have, it's going to materialize in record time. Now that seems obvious, and you might also think, it's easier said than done, and it certainly is easier said than done, which is why you need to have techniques, tips, even secrets on how to do this, because it's not going to happen by itself. It's not going to happen by accident. So let me just make a very simple illustration here. Now let's imagine that each little line like that is a unit of life output. What's life output? Life output is basically you have limited resources. You have limited hours in a day. You have limited amounts of energy, limited amounts of money. There are hard limits to a lot of things. So some people have a little bit more ability to output, some people have less ability to output, but that's not what's important. Everybody has at least some. Here's what most people's output looks like. There's a little bit in this direction. There's a little bit in this direction. There's a little bit in this direction, and a little bit here, and some here, and some here, and some here, and some here. And so what happens is that this is a force that's being exerted to go in this direction. This is a force that's going in that direction. Well, when you've got the forces going in all directions, they cancel each other out. And so you have very little or no momentum at all. The average person makes very little progress in their life on any front whatsoever after they graduate from high school or university or whatever it is. Not true for the high performers. So the high performers, basically what they figure out is that if you have a force that cancels itself out, you're not going anywhere. So you're going to engineer your units of life output so that you can put a disproportionate amount of them in line like this, pointing in one direction. So obviously we have responsibilities. We have some of the units of life output that we have are already spoken for. No matter how clear you get, there's still certain things that you have to do in order to be able to continue going with the machine. So, of course, maybe you can't put all of your units of life output energy in one direction, but you can certainly put several, and you can try to prevent there from being any that are going in the wrong direction. Because the more you align everything towards one simple common goal, the easier that goal is to reach. All right. So now getting into the kind of nitty-gritty. I invite you to do this exercise, and I invite you to do this exercise right now. This might seem weird to you. Why? Because if you're not used to having clarity, and if you're not used to kind of trying to determine your future before it happens, you're going to feel kind of alien here. And I know that I used to feel extraordinarily alien here. So I was in my early 20s, and really I didn't even want the same thing from one day to the next. One day I wanted one thing, the next day I wanted another thing, and this continued for a very long time. And so when I tried to make real plans, it felt silly, because it felt like, well, if I don't want the same thing today as I want tomorrow, how can I try and guess what I'm going to want in a year? How can I try and guess what I'm going to want in 5 years? How about 25 years? Feels almost ridiculous. It doesn't feel ridiculous to me anymore. Now that I've been doing it for a long time, and now that I've benefited on an incredible level from doing this, I can tell you that it's one of the things that I most highly recommend. Because the more you start setting goals, the more you start creating a future for yourself, the more you start determining what you really want and separating it from what you don't want, the quicker you're going to get it. And the more this is going to become kind of an automatic habit and method through which that you use to function as you go through life. So as you go through life, we probably make 1,000 choices. I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of choices we make in any given day. Well, once you train this mechanism, and once you figure out the future that you want, all of those choices become easy. And eventually, doing hard things becomes easy as well. And that's kind of the goal here. Doing hard things easily leads to disproportionate success, disproportionate results, and disproportionate ability to get whatever you want. And that's the goal of everything that I'm talking about right here. Okay, so what I invite you to do as an exercise, do it now, right now as you're watching this. Write this down on a piece of paper. Write it on a word processor, whatever it is that works for you. Paint your bigger and brighter future in these 6 key aspects of life. And now I'm really talking about a bigger and brighter future. I'm not talking about just an increment above what you've already got. I'm talking about something that you think, if I had that, I would be really excited. I would be thrilled. I would be extraordinarily grateful for every day that happens. One caveat, the number one filter that will mess up this process, and that probably has been messing up this process for you, is fear and intimidation. That's what it used to be for me. So I used to think, oh, I would love to be incredibly fit. I would love to have a six-pack. I would love to have nice arms. But then I would tell myself, well, you're fat as a teenager, you've never had abs, and you're kind of overweight now, and you've got all of these back problems, so you can't do that. So the only thing that's realistic for you in terms of health is to barely survive and not fall apart. Well, that's not a very compelling future, is it? The same thing in terms of for career, occupation, and money making. Before I went through this transformation in my life, I had only strictly minimum wage jobs. I didn't appreciate them, and they didn't appreciate me. I had a bad attitude. I would fight with my bosses. I would feel bad about it all the time. I'm sure they felt bad about it too. And I had a very small salary, very, very little money to contend with. And so when you reach 25 years old and that's all you've ever seen, you're tempted to think, well, maybe instead of making $7 an hour, I can make $9 or I can make $12 an hour. That used to be the minimum wage back then. And then you think, whoa, maybe I could make $20 an hour. Imagine that. Well, the real truth is that your possibilities are 100 times that. There's absolutely no limit to so many things once you learn the formula for getting everything you want out of life. To give you an example, within 3 years of the last time that I worked for low wages and a boss, I had periods of time where I was making $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 an hour around the clock, 24 hours a day, automated income. I never could have believed it at that point. But the important thing that I'm trying to get through to you here is that when you're painting your bigger and brighter future, it's got to be big. It's got to be bright. It's got to be compelling. It's got to be something that makes you feel like, gosh, I really want that. I'm willing to get up. I'm willing to work hard. I'm willing to change some of my habits. I'm willing to make some sacrifices of things that I've been holding on for so long, and now I'm willing to let go because what I'm going to get in exchange is going to be so wonderful that it's a brain dead choice. So that's the future that you want to build for yourself. So as you do this, don't let fear and intimidation basically get in the way of you really deciding on something that is exciting to you, because that's the barometer. If it's not exciting, it ain't gonna work. So make it exciting, make it big, make it good. Let's go over this real quickly. So the number one thing is, so these top 3 things are the top 3 things that every single human being on earth wants. Every single healthy, well-minded person wants to be healthy, wants to have a career or an occupation that is both fulfilling and pays a good amount of money. And finally, they want to have, at the very least, an intimate relationship that feels good, that provides them with love, comfort, support, opportunities for growth, and all of that stuff. So these are pretty much givens. And in the same way, I was telling you, is if you feel like you don't know what you want at all, well, you at least have one direction in which you know that you want your health to be. You want good health, not bad health. Paint a picture of it. What does it look like? Career and occupation, the same thing. What impact do you want to have on people or on the world? How much do you want to get paid? How much do you want to be compelled into working rather than choosing to work because you feel like it? These are important questions to answer. And how do you want your intimate relation to be? And again, I can't tell you that there's no right or wrong. It's what's right for you. That's what matters. But the more you kind of start sketching these things out and eliminating the other stuff, the clearer it'll get and the more it'll serve as guidelines in your day-to-day life so that you can make the right choice easily. Moving on, hobbies and interests. These are really important things. How are you going to use your free time? What is it that you want to learn about? What do you want to know? Where would you like to go one day? Start clarifying it. Number 5, living situation. Do you want to live in a house in the countryside, on the mountain? Do you want it to be on the ocean? Do you want to live in the city, perhaps in an artist's loft with high ceilings that's really close to all of the stuff that you can do in big cities? Paint a picture in your mind. Make it good, make it exciting, put some color on it. Finally, friends, family, and social life. Do you want to have a lot of friends? Do you want to have great friends? Do you want to have lifelong friends? What kind of person do you need to be in order to have those things? What kind of people do you need to welcome into your life so that those things can become realized? When you have answers to those questions, you have guidelines. If you write each one of these 6 things out, and you really write them out in very short goal-like format, and then you read them every day. You get up in the morning, you read it every day. I recommend that you do so while doing the morning ritual that I recommend in so many of my videos. But you read these out every day, and what it does is that it starts to kind of set these anchor points in your mind for what you really want to get out of life. And as long as you're not willing to compromise, or not compromise too much, and that you keep coming back to it all the time, and that you're willing to make small adjustments to the course of your days, of your weeks, of your months, eventually you're going to have all of the things that you've put on this list. And if you don't put anything on the list, well, that's what you're going to get, a big pile of whatever. So if that's not good enough for you, and you want to make the most of your time, your energy, your opportunities, get it down on paper. Look at it every day. It'll make a world of a difference for you because it did for me. So, the best time to do this, remember, today is a template for every day. The way that you take action today is the way that you take action in the future. You can't be someone later that you aren't right now. You at least got to start. What does that mean? It means do the exercise, do the work. Don't do it later, do it right now. Hey, I'm Alex Goad. Thanks for watching. Today is a template for every day, so behave yourself accordingly.